Hi, these are the notes about writing equations of parallel lines. What we decided to do is we're splitting this up into two parts. Today we're going to look at writing equations of parallel lines, and tomorrow we're going to look at writing equations of perpendicular lines. What we're going to learn about in this lesson is how you can tell if two lines are parallel by looking at their slopes. So what's true about the slopes of parallel lines. Number 2, comparing parallel lines on a graph, so we'll see what they look like. Number 3, writing equations of lines of parallel, lines that are parallel, and why they're parallel. Okay, and we'll take a look at parallel lines on a two-dimensional coordinate graph, and we'll apply that to shapes. Okay, parallel lines have the same slope, so you can tell just by looking at an equation whether two lines are parallel. So remember that the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b. And remember that the m was the part that stood for the slope. So in other words, the number that's right in front of the x, the one that's attached to the x, is the slope. So I can look at, for example, problem A here, and I can tell by looking at those three equations which two are parallel. So the answer would be number 1 and number 2. And the reason I can tell is that they both have a slope of 2, because the number in front of the x is a 2. Okay, for problem B, I've got one that has a slope of 1/2, number 2 has a slope of 1/3, and number 3 has a slope of 1/2. So the ones that are parallel would be 1 and 3. Find the slope of each line is m1 parallel to m2. So in other words, it's the slope for the number 1 the same as the slope for number 2. Remember that there are a couple of different ways that you can find slopes. We can do it the equation way. Remember the slope formula, and the slope formula was m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But there's also a little easier way that I know that I showed you before, where what it is, it's rise over run. But if you're counting with your fingers, remember you want to see if it's going uphill or down. In this case, they're going uphill. The top number is how far you go up, and the bottom number is how far you go right. If the slope was negative, if it was going downhill, then we would go how far down on top and how far right on the bottom. So in this case, if I start, and you always start with the dot that's further left, if I start at the point -4, -3, I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and right 1, 2, 3. So the slope of that one would be up 7, right 3, or 7/3. M2, if I start at the dot that's further left, which would be 2, -1, I would go up 1, 2, and right 1. So the slope would be up 2, right 1. So that would be 2. So those are the slopes, 7/3 and 2. And are the lines parallel? No, they're not parallel. Now I could have found the slopes by using the slope formula. For example, if I was doing the line M1, I would have went 4 minus -3, because I took the y minus the y. And on the bottom I'd have -1 minus -4. Remember, when you subtract a negative, it turns into plus plus. So I would end up with 7/3. So you can see that I get the exact same answer as the way I did it when I counted with my fingers. Okay, next question. Write an equation of a line that's parallel to the given line with a y-intercept of 2. Okay, so if you remember when we were making equations of lines, remember that we filled in two numbers into this equation. Because remember, is y equals mx plus b. So if we could figure out what the m and the b were, we could fill in those blanks. Remember that m is the slope and the b is the y-intercept. So in this case, it says right in the problem that the y-intercept is 2. So that would be a 2. And then in the first blank, remember that's the slope. It says that this line is parallel to the given line. And so in order to find a line that's parallel to this line, all I have to do is pick out the slope number, which is a number right in front of the x. And so my line, my new line, is going to have a slope of -3/4 also, because they're parallel. And so this would be the answer. Okay, the next problem. Oh, this is a picture of what we just did. These are the two equations that we were just looking at, and so you can see what they look like. And so the first one we had, this was the one that was given in the problem, says f of x equals -3/4 x plus 1. If you remember that f of x, that's slope or function notation, and so that just means the same thing as y equals -3/4 plus 1. Okay, so it crosses at 1, so here's 1, and then the slope is down 3, right 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see the blue line, that's what the equation is. For g of x, that equation says y equals -3/4 x plus 2. So you can see that it crosses the y-axis at 2, and again the slope is down 3, 1, 2, 3, right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see, and you can see that the lines are parallel. You can see that they run next to each other and they're never going to intersect, which is what parallel means. Okay, next equation. Write an equation of a line that's parallel to the given line through the point -4, 8. Now this is one that you might remember from before break, that it was a little bit harder to come up with the b. It's going to be easy to come up with the m. So again, we're trying to fill in these two blanks, y equals blank x plus blank, and it says it's parallel to the given line. So this time the m is the easy part. Because if it's parallel to this equation, this line has a slope of 2, so my line also has a slope of 2. The hard part is coming up with the b. And if you remember the way we did that, what we did is we made another separate equation that was y equals mx plus b. And we filled in the y, the m, and the x using the given point. And so remember in the point P, the -4 would be the x and the 8 would be the y. We have a slope, we have an m, so we're going to plug in those three numbers into this new y equals mx plus b, and we're going to use algebra to solve for b. So if I plug those in, I would have 8 equals m is 2, and that's times x, so it'd be times -4 plus b, because b is the unknown. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply the 2 times the -4, so I have 8 equals -8 plus b. And now to get the b by itself, I would add 8 to each side, and I would end up with 16 equals b. Now that I know my b, I'm going to plug the 16 into the equation, and here's my answer, y equals 2x plus 16. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. And again, we're going to look at perpendicular lines tomorrow. So if you have any questions, please be sure to ask in class.